Good morning. It comes to my attention that everybody, well, mostly everybody, is under some sort of psychosis, either created by themselves or proposed by someone else. And they are quite happy in this psychosis. They are living in Wonderland. It's a world, utopian world, how things ought to be, and not how things are. And it's quite a shock when you bring them back to reality, um, things that they absolutely hate is natural order, the weather and stuff like that. They just hate it because it's a reminder that they are living in an illusion. Yeah. Now there's a lack of something. I would say an absence of a spiritual energy, spiritual presence. There's an absence of the soul in in these types who want absolutely to control everything around them. It's an obsession. They simply are absent of something. So to, I don't know, have a purpose in their existence, they decide to, I am going to rule, I am going to project, I'm going to, because they're overly obsessed with the ego, the physical self, because again there's an absence of the spiritual world, so they are only focused on the physical. And the physical is quite flawed, there's perceptions and feelings and emotions, and they only base their world in that. They can't, you know objectively and subjectively, distance themselves from, you know this reality and think outside of it. They simply can't. They are the ones who are incapable of creative thoughts. They are incapable of creativity. They are incapable of understanding, satire or allegory, or all of those things. They are just incapable of, their perception, the things that are captured by their sensors is reality. And they simply can't empathize or have compassion for everybody else. They think this is how the world is. And everybody has to march to this, march to this song, march to this tune, my tune, because this is how I see the world. And everybody has to see it as well. Otherwise, you might be a problem. They don't want to be that. They have this obsession projecting their dysfunctionality over everybody else. They simply can't understand there's the transcendent self and the physical self, and you must not be fooled by the senses. There's more that meets the eye. There's more, there's more, but they just don't understand it. So it becomes problematic when they get into positions of power. Then they have the tools to impose. Again, the thing that they love is harassment. They use harassment. They tire their victims. It's almost like, you are hunting, for food, and humans, are quite good at long distances. So we would hunt our animals until they are tired. We can walk and run for hours. Every other animal can't do so. So that's harassment. Until the victim is tired is one of the tactics they use. Until the victim accepts the unrealistic, unhumane conditions, right? They love to persecute, to harass, and until the system has absolute power over the individual. They have to have power over your body, over the functions of your body, over what you can do, what you can access. They have absolute power. If they could, they would like to micromanage, everything. There's religions and that want to micromanage what you put in your body, what you eat, what you drink. This obsession over that. Transhumanism also comes into mind. They want to put chips, so they can even, see your thoughts and control. They want to micromanage everything, and absolute control over the body of the individual is essential for them. That gives them this feeling, this sensation that at last they have absolute power. And if they want, they can wish you away from existence. If you become too much of a bother to them, they can wish you away. They have absolute power over you. They can do anything. It's a pathology of control. It's a pathology of possession, of persecution. Now, some of the people, victims under this, eventually they have no escape. So the only thing left to them is, deleting themselves. And the pathological control grid doesn't even blink an eye when this happens. They're like, huh, look at that. They don't even blink. They want absolute control over the individual, and surveillance comes to mind. There used to be other tactics in the past, but it was quite difficult, to gather, to gather the whole of the population. They would gather small groups. And I think they were obsessed when they had absolute power over the groups. It was their numbers. They were obsessed with their numbers. If they were too much, it would escape their control. So they were obsessed in what? Controlling the number of the individuals in the group. When there was too much, they would create, a way to, delete some of them. Otherwise, they could escape their control. Now, this is where depopulation comes. Now they have technology that can encapsulate a lot more people into their psychosis. The digital, prison, it can. So they are testing it. They're testing the grounds and pushing people to their, to their extremes to see how many can they fill inside. And those who don't, accept, they're thinking of humane ways of getting rid of them. That's how they always, do these things. The binary thinking kicks in these situations. If they don't want to join us, then they are against us. Let's find a way to mercifully get rid of them. It's for our own good and for their own sake. So they come around with these, you know, um, psychological operations that there's, this deadly thing in the air, and you need, for your own sake, to accept our measures. And of course, it's a Trojan horse because you just don't know what's inside the medicine, what's inside the remedy. This is almost like the schematics of the pathology of control. This doesn't exist in history. It's not explained in history. This mechanics or this pathology of control is not, because if it was, people would see the red flags immediately before they manifest. They would see that it will explain totalitarianism. It doesn't matter what form of shake or path it took, as long as it works. So don't focus it's the left, it's the right. No, no. It doesn't have any, preference. Now, not so long ago, it was around the turn of this century, there was this group of people that was obsessed with, eugenics, euthanasia, and all those things. And they're back. They're back in strength. We were able to, breed calmly for. They went underground. You see, they went underground, but now they are resurfacing again. They weren't trialed for the crimes they committed. They weren't trialed. The Nuremberg tribes happened. The foot soldiers was trialed, but the key elements, they all escaped. They all escaped the key elements. They all continue their research and their work, pretty much sabotaging or taking hostage your imaginations. In using the media. I mean, there's so many mental programs, control programs on the media. It's incredible. It's just another, it's just another clue in the coffin, so to speak, to implement totalitarianism. Absolute control over the existence of people's sexual rights. Who's essential, who's not essential, who has the right for, minimum income, who doesn't. Yeah, they decide these things. It's up to them to decide. Of course, their criteria is simply, do you accept our terms? Then you go. Then you're good to go. You're good to live in our utopia. If you don't accept our terms, then you are against us. So you become the target. You are no longer essential. Declarations, are made in books and even in TV. The Windows Zero guy, he said it many times. If we do a great job, and I'm quoting him, with this, that, and the other, and machinations, we will reduce the population, blah, 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 blah. You see, they are obsessed with population control because they haven't, figured the system that would encapsulate everybody under their rule, under their psychosis, under their mental psychosis. So there's madmen declaring pretty much, oh, we're going to create a world vigilance system, and then transhumanism is going to help, and you'll have a digital ID, and everything will be tractable. We can disable you anytime we want. If you step out of the line, they'll disable you. People listen to this and they are in disbelief. This is a madman. It feels like a James Bond villain talking. But they are very serious. We have a feeling of uncanny valley. We do, because it's not human, the thing that's making these declarations. It's not human. It doesn't have a soul, you know. It's the absence of a soul. Yeah. And people just don't, they're like, wow. So there isn't, I mean, the thing you have to understand, a lot of people have woken up to what happened, psychological operation, and the fascism we went through, medical fascism went through. A lot of people have woken up to what's going on. Don't trust the comment sections. Yeah, because they are using the platforms. They have bots, AI that automatically generates comments, and they look very convincing, supporting the measures, supporting the system. So don't get bamboozled by the comments. Yeah. So they figured we can't beat it. A long time ago, they figured we can't beat it. I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, they figured they couldn't beat it. So let's take it over. That's how they always do. Let's take it over and use it for our advantage. So since 10 years ago, they have bots. And they even can sell those privileges to people. You can buy fans, you can buy viewers, you can buy subscriptions. You can go from a channel who has one subscription to millions if you have the money to pay for it. Or if you work for the system, they will give them to you. And there will be thousands of comments. They don't mean anything. I mean, there's so many comments. Sometimes I look, what is this? They're just saying, oh, I love you, or this or that, or yeah, this made my day. Oh, this is just, doesn't mean anything. You could write that in any video. Doesn't have any character. Doesn't mean anything. So anyway, what can we do? What we always do. Yeah. What we always do, we survive. Eventually, it will crash and burn. These systems, they need tons of fuel to function. Yeah, constant refueling, you know, and eventually they crash and burn. Sometimes it takes, momentarily, sometimes it takes decades, but eventually it crashes and burns because it's against natural order. If you go against natural order, you will pay a price. That's why they hate it so much. Anyway, I think I'm going to shut up now. Have a nice weekend.